Welcome back to the Marketing Box podcast. Today I'm going to officially introduce you to Mike Paine, our CMO. But we call him Magic Mike as a running joke over here. He told us to call him that. Shh.
Yeah, that's what I said. I come in dancing a lot.
Mike is a very huge piece of our company. And so his story, there's a lot to unravel here. And if you know Mike, he's very creative, funny person, but he can also be really serious. So he brings a lot to the table. He's kind of the reason why I'm here today, and Ryan too. So yeah, we'll have him start from the very beginning.
Oh wow, that's you're gonna age me a little bit, but yeah, that's a long way back. You know, that's one of the things. Magic Mike, that's pretty funny. But you know, I like to lead with a smile with everybody. I mean, I think that kind of opens up a room. I think I read a study about that. If somebody's smiling, then it makes a big difference. So, you know, if it makes you laugh, then Magic Mike it is. Also been known as House of Pain, which, you know, bring in the raps. Not a very good rapper, but so from the beginning, like marketing, I'm very passionate about it. If you've listened to any of the podcasts that I'm on or anything that I've done, then you know how much I love the idea, the strategy behind it, the whole concepts, the creative aspects of it, what makes marketing work and what doesn't.
Yeah.
It's weird how far back would you say that it actually triggered in me that I would know to do that. And it's funny because I can go back almost to high school, you know, and I was like one of those guys that was a class clown, but also I felt like I was a high achiever. I ran for class offices, and I remember my junior year in high school, I went to a school. It was like split. You know, it had a lot of, you know, it was still kind of segregated. You know, it kind of tells you a little about how old I was, that you had a lot of white and black communities that kind of almost were separated. Not that it was like a racist kind of thing, but, you know, you kind of hung with who you were. And I kind of always kind of tried to merge with both of them, you know, because I just thought that culture was a lot more fun. So one of the things that we did for the election, which was very new this year, they were filming us prior to, like, instead of having an election speech where everybody came and they all came to an auditorium, we actually filmed the speeches, and then they played them in the Commons during lunch.
Oh, okay.
Which was unique. So I was like, all right, so what can we do that's going to be different? What's going to stand out? And, you know, Jason Oye and I actually wrote a rap song to, I don't know if you can remember Young MC's Bust a Move.
Oh, my gosh.
But the idea was, don't just vote, just bust a pain. And that was the slogan we did. And I swear, when I would walk through the comments, you'd see them all erupt. And it was on a VHS tape. They all quickly rewind it. Watch this stupid white boy. Watch this stupid white boy. It was so fun.
Just bust a pain.
And I won, but it was almost like it was, again, understanding my audience, trying to get those kind of groups together, creating something that was unique and different that nobody else did. Everybody else just stood up and said, you should elect me because I will do this. Nobody really gives a shit. It's all about kind of entertainment, and that, you know, we're talking 30-something years ago. I mean, yeah, almost like, yeah, because I'm 49 now, so that was when I was 17 or 16 when I was doing that. So, yeah, and then, you know, all the slogans, no pain, no gain, just kind of stuff like that. It's like, all right, maybe marketing is my thing. That's what I should do. But instead, my first year at LSU, I decided to do pre-med. And I think I did it for the wrong reasons. And I think, like, if y'all don't know Shannon and I's relationship, her dad was my absolute best friend in high school. We were roommates all through college. I mean, we were really tight. So I've known Shannon since the day she was born. Yeah. And one of the things that we both were actually pre-med our first year, and it was all like, we're going to do this because we wanted to open a practice. We wanted to, you know, drive Ferraris next to each other. We thought it was going to be the coolest thing, but it wasn't what we were passionate about.
Knowing you and my dad, I could never imagine y'all as doctors. My dad doesn't even like to go to the doctor.
No, but your dad was always like, he was the car guy. Like, he knew everything about a car. Like, he could see a car going down the road and tell you how many times it's been wrecked. He could tell you the engine of it, how fast it would go. Like, we used to race a lot when we were younger too. And I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but you know, he would know, like, we'd pull up and some of these, we'd have a Mustang GT half the time. We'd pull up next to a car and we'd all look at Keith, can we take it? Can we take it? He said, no, don't do that one. But it was, you know, and he he cars is his life. That's what he does right now. So, you know, it's weird how he fell into his passions, and marketing was clearly my life. I was good at it at an early age, and we both flipped out of the whole pre-med concept, and it took me an extra year to get out of LSU. But I don't know if I really learned marketing at LSU. I did study marketing, and really I think, and that's one of the things, I know Gary Vee's always big on don't go to college, it's a waste of money, which it's expensive. It's, you know, you can go into debt really, really quick. But what I say to that is a lot of times people don't want to fight their parents, and I get that, you know, because to me, I think having a college degree is a couple of things. It's like setting goals and then being able to know you finished. But I think the biggest thing is the opportunity that's around you, and that's whether you go to college or you don't. Don't go to college just to learn. Go to college and network. Go to college and look who's there, not just your peers, not just the people in there, but find like interests. That's one of the things, like my son right now, we're paying a lot for him to go to college, and he is actually pre-med, but he's doing it for the right reasons. You know, he's a very passionate kid, and he really thinks, probably the smartest person I know, but he thinks he'll find a cure for cancer. I mean, that's his goal. He wants to make sure that, you know, he had a friend that was diagnosed with leukemia at a very young age, and to him, he saw the struggles that this kid, you know, like all of his little buddies, was a younger lacrosse player. All of his buddies were struggling. You know, we're just worried about, oh, what's the next game? Or, you know, what are we going to do? How are we going to play? And this kid's wondering not whether he's going to live or die. Like, it's a totally different mindset, and it kind of really got to him. And he's like, you know, if I can just save one of those kids' lives, if I can create some normalcy for one of those kids, then I'm a hero. You know, so he actually is wanting to be a pediatric oncologist, which to me has got to be one of the hardest things in the world. But he's also very passionate about theater and film, and he's taking advantage of that at school. Like, he has a double major in film, and he wrote a really cool transcript that he shared with me the other day. It's like, man, this is, and I encourage that, but that's kind of the things that I'm talking about. Like, my college experience, I don't know if I really learned a lot about marketing, but I had one really good marketing class and one really good marketing teacher that I connected with, that I'm still friends with today, that actually led me and introduced me to my first job as an internship my senior year at LSU, which created a portfolio that landed me my first job, which, you know, it's just been an avalanche. I've never really interviewed for jobs. It's more been like, okay, I'm moving up, I'm moving into this company. I tried starting my own business. You know, and it's just one of those things that has led me to this. And I can remember the first day I met Sean, which was, again, it was a friend of a friend that I worked with that knew Sean, and he knew Sean was looking for somebody that had a marketing mind. And it was a Sunday. I was hanging out in Mandeville with my wife's family, and he was in New Orleans, and he had just built a brand new home. This was right before Katrina. And I went over there, met with him and Angelina, just chilled out at his house, talked about what we wanted to do, and then he called me right after that and made an offer, and I was like, let's do this. So I moved positions, and this was, again, I was living in Prairieville, so it was a commute to New Orleans. And then Katrina hit probably like 2 months after, which was chaos. But because I lived in Prairieville, it wasn't as devastating to me. I think the worst part for me was that I had 21 people living with me at the time. And this is when Keith and you at that time too were living right next door. Yeah. So it was a really weird community time. Our whole office moved to Baton Rouge. My dad had office space, so we moved over there, and we kind of kept just grinding because we were in the automotive event business at the time, and it was one of those things that it doesn't stop. Because even though Louisiana was devastated,
the rest of the world.
The rest of the world, really. I mean, it's kind of like it's a hard dose of reality. You know, like you might be trying to struggle to even turn power on, but the rest of the world really doesn't care. I mean, they cared, but they really didn't. You know, it's like it didn't really affect them. So we knew we had to move on in order to survive, and that's one of those things that Sean and I were able to battle with at a very early point in our relationship. We kind of tested each other. You know, like, what are we going to do? This is how we're going to manage it. And, you know, and we've been through a lot of those battles. I mean, after 17 years, you can imagine some of the struggles that we've gone through together to be where we are today, which is, to me, it's extremely exciting of what's to come. You know, one of the things that I've loved about working here and working with Sean is that he really kind of sees the best in people. Mm-hmm. He knows how to push and motivate. And it's one of those things like today we're just joking about because he had this great idea. He said, I know Mike's just going to shit on this idea. I know he is. And I was like, all right, I need to keep an open mind because that's kind of part of our thing. Like he pushes the envelope and I kind of come back and say, not necessarily what's wrong. Like I poke holes in it because I want to make sure that if we're pushing forward, again, we talked about this as far as living our dreams because I love it. He's an idea guy. We're both idea people. He's really extreme with it. And then I kind of test the boundaries of where this is, how can we execute it, I guess, is more along my job with what we're doing. And it's just fun. So we came up with something really, really fun, exciting. I'm not going to release it or talk about it right now because I think that's going to be something, I mean, it's very fresh, obviously, but I think that's something that's going to be really cool and exciting that I think is going to help the company, but it's going to get a lot of buzz.
And I think the special thing about you and Sean's relationship is that you guys are so weathered. Like you reminded us when you first started working together, I mean, Hurricane Katrina, that was a turning point in many people's lives if they're from Louisiana. That was devastation. But you guys figured out how to help each other through that. And what is the saying? Like, God doesn't send you through storms unless if you're going to come out stronger, things like that. And so you guys have worked together for so long, and now y'all are the leaders in the office day to day. And so for me, I just came into this. But, initially that I was just like the energy when you come into our office, I was like, it's so me. You know, every day it's something new, which is the most fun part. It's really like every day we're constantly chasing the next thing and always trying to improve ourselves, not just what we do, but who we are, which is something that I love because it's like, you know, if you're having a rough day, I can always rely on y'all to make me laugh. So I do love that here. And a lot of that has to do with just how you guys come in and support each other.
Well, I think that's also one of the reasons why it's, you know, been able to sustain. You think working somewhere 17 years and still wanting to come into work, you know, like being excited about coming into work and knowing what we have to do is part of it. The culture here is really good. And I think it's part of it too, is that, you know, I fed off of Sean, how he empowers me, and I like to empower everybody that's around me. You know, you want to encourage and build up. Like I was always big in my kids coaching, like I coached all their sports, and you always have, like when you're doing rec sports, you know, not the competitive sports, but the rec sports, you're always dealing with several different levels of talent. You know, people that don't even know how to what hand to put a baseball glove on versus somebody that's been going to batting practice for several years. And, you know, and it's a weird dynamic because kids don't look at it in the same way. You know, they look at the person that doesn't know how to do it as like, oh, that they're going to hold me back. They're going to, you know, they kind of almost like really negative to a point of bullying. And it's one of those things that I've kind of always, as a coach, is that I try to encourage it, saying like, hey, if you want to be on a winning team, you are one of these leaders. You know you're good, and you know this guy's struggling a little bit. Even as a coach, he's not going to listen to my words as much as he's going to listen to your words. So if you encourage him, you will make him that much better, and the team, guess what, will do that. It will just improve dramatically. And I remember that the first year I ever coached, it was – I did it because my son is the smart kid. He's not necessarily the athletic kid. He's not that he's not an athlete, but he is not the best athlete.
Right.
And I knew that if he got one of these coaches that were total assholes that basically started yelling at him,
he's going to make him not want to do it.
He would just say, I don't like baseball. I don't want to do it anymore. So I said, all right, I'm going to be an assistant coach because I was never really that good at sports either. And that way I can learn all the coaching styles. I don't want to make a mistake. Well, they didn't have enough head coaches for me to be an assistant. So they said, well, Mike, will you be a head coach? I was like, crap. And I did it. So I said, all right, well, you know, that's what you got, the internet, you got Google, you got whatever. But one of the things that I did was I encouraged every parent out there to come and just to be part of it. Like I split them up. Like I didn't do like the normal practice to where, okay, everybody stand in the outfield for 3 hours and wait for a ball to come to you. I made it almost like I created carnival games.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
divide them up in little
stations
sections.
And circuits.
Yes. Everybody's doing something. Everybody's busy. They're rolling really fast. And and they're moving. And I remember one of the kids like did know where to put. He was holding the glove on his right hand and trying to figure out how to throw with his left. It's like, no, that's not how we do it. But I remember at the end of that season, and this was, I probably had the smallest team out there. But at the end of the season, we actually were playing in the championship game against a team that had never lost. Like they basically 10-run ruled everybody. And we had beat them so bad, we didn't have to play the third inning. Like they couldn't even catch up with us. And I had that same kid that didn't know what hand to put the glove on. I had him play pitcher, which is probably the most active role. And sure enough, if they didn't hit a ball to him, he scooped it up and threw it straight to first base to throw the kid out. Like, to me, that was the highlight of the whole season because I took this little kid that nobody believed in. I don't even think his parents believed in him to a point that got to that level. And it's like, right then I was hooked. Like, I'm done. But I kind of, and the reason why I say that is I almost like to think about that as my management type style.
Well, it's funny you say that because then I've always looked at you as this. You're almost like the dad to people here. And I wasn't around whenever the devs were in office, but from the stories y'all tell, it seems like you were an instrumental part of them feeling welcomed and happy here. And I mean, they're thousands and thousands of miles away from their home and their families. And so I think having such a positive, warm environment was really, it's crucial to them. And so hearing the stories, I'm like, Mike was really like their dad. Like hearing the stories of y'all cooped up in this small little, it's not that small, but still y'all had like, 5 desks in here?
Yes.
I can just imagine Mike being the ringleader and like causing them to laugh all the time. And it might have made them a little less productive, but I bet you that's what they look back on and they remember and appreciate.
Yeah. It was so much selfish though. I mean, I came out of it feeling like my ego was really big because I thought I was the funniest person alive. Like they would laugh at just about everything I said.
Magic Mike.
It was really funny. I mean, just the most absurd things that I would do, and I still always ask them. You know, I'm not going to really say because HR probably would not be excited. What I ask them what they're doing for the weekends, because I know it's so absurd that they would never do it. But it gets a smile out of them, you know, and it kind of gets them loose. And that's part of the fun. You know, like if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and again, that goes kind of back a little bit to coaching. Like if I were to yell at these kids, you know, if they're
not having fun at the end of the day.
Well, if a manager yells at you, you'll do what they ask them to do. But if that manager encourages you and kind of believes in you, you'll do what they want you to do and then a little bit extra just because you want to impress them, you know, because you like feeling that, you know, and that's how I've always, and I don't know if it's because of that. It's not that I'm trying to get more out of people. I don't like to yell at people. That's just not my style. You know, and I know that it doesn't work. So I always try to lead with happiness, lead with compliments, lead with, you know, and I think that's a Zig Ziglar thing, is that if you want somebody to listen to you, you lead with what they're doing right. God bless you. Because it opens their ears. If you lead with a compliment, it opens their ears, and then you can give them constructive criticism on how to fix whatever's wrong. But, yeah, I almost kind of have to keep it in perspective, you know?
So let's step into your creative, because you are extremely creative. You do a lot more than just marketing and messaging. Like, you have a keen eye and a true just natural gift for design, how things should look, how things should be presented in a certain way. So let's touch on that because you do a lot more than just marketing, right? You wear many different hats. So let's touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do whatever is necessary. And I think that's part of, again, looking at the opportunities around you. I've had the benefit of working for small businesses. Like my very first job out of college, I worked for a small agency. I took over the print advertising, and I kind of maximized it. It was really, everything was resourced out, and I brought it all in-house and kind of kept going with that. But I wasn't necessarily really that busy. I was still like one office away from all the video editing guys, you know, all the copywriting guys. And it's like, all right, so I know print design pretty well, but do I know how to copyright? Do I know how to video edit? Do I know all these things? And it created opportunities for me just because I would go and I'd dig in. You know, whenever you have a moment, instead of farting around on social, go dig in. Like find a book, you know, there's all these, back then they didn't have all the YouTube stuff. So I just found resources, found people that I wanted to try to do these things. And it led me to, at one point, I actually got to direct Brett Favre in commercials because the team was stuck in Dallas during Mardi Gras, and they needed, so we went to Gulfport, Mississippi, where he was shooting stuff for Tran Foley, and I got to meet Brett Favre, which that was the year he actually won his first MVP at Green Bay. He was a big deal to me. So it was really kind of cool. I was a little bit starstruck, but it was funny because I was like, I'll slow that down a little bit, Brett, trying to be all professional. But it was really cool, and I got to do that a couple times.
That's something I've admired about you, and a similarity between you and Ryan. You guys have both found ways to maximize your talents and your skills and leverage that, because it really just makes you that much more valuable. And I think we've made a podcast, you and Sean did, about being like irreplaceable. And that just, and that's something I've learned and I will take with me for the rest of my life. Like learning how can Shannon make herself better and learn different kind of things. And really each day you want to get 1% better. So that's something that you guys have taught me from the day that I started.
Well, I think you find inspiration from things around you. Believe it or not, I know you keep saying you're the new girl here, but I find inspiration in a lot of what you do. Like, I know, but look, what you do impresses me, motivates me. There's things I can steal. Like, I'm a good thief. I like to take attributes that people do well, and I like to steal them. And, like, your attitude and just your thirst for knowledge and your fight for success, it's like it's a good attribute, and it rubs off, and those are kind of things that, like, when you first came in to talk to us, it was one of those things that when we looked at your resume, we're like, I don't know if, we know she's a competitive cheerleader.
Yeah.
I know her family really well, obviously. I know she's really smart. She has zero experience in really what we're doing, but let's talk to her and see if she even really wants to do this, and see if she's a fit. And by the time you were walking down the steps, Sean said, let's hire her. Let's figure out how to make sure she's ready to come in and see when she wants to start, because of who you are. Character is everything, and I think that's one of the things that is really good about the culture that we have here. And that's
absolutely.
Like when we hired Ryan, we were we were doing high fives because Ryan was coming in. We were super excited, but the thing is, he's just as excited about being here because I think it's like that culture that we have here. It's really magical. And what magic, Mike? It's I need my cape. But what we're about to do, especially with as small of a team as we are, what we're already doing right now with as small of a team we are is crazy impressive.
And I think our ability to inspire other people, just by like a podcast, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but we've inspired all of our guests so far. Like, they're like, shoot, maybe I should start making some video content talking about the things that I am an expert on. And it's amazing. Just it's like every day I feel like we cross a new hurdle. We might take 2 steps back, but then the next day we're taking 5 steps forward. So it really is, that's the beauty of being a part of a small team. And to me, I had no knowledge of that because this was my first real big job. And so I didn't know the difference between, how much on a small team we all impact each other. And it's like the hurdles we'll be able to cross together at the end of the day versus if we were a big team. I just feel like it just means more.
Yeah, I've never really worked for a big company, so I don't know how that works, but I know that we work with a lot of big companies, and even when we did stuff for Chick-fil-A, it's like we worked for a couple of franchises for Chick-fil-A, and they were trying to go through the corporate paperwork to do some of the advanced marketing that we were doing with them. And they basically were a little bit more aggressive, and they said, oh, you know what, we'll just ask for forgiveness later. Let's go. But having to move and manage in those kind of big things would not fit me very well. The fact that we can pivot very quickly. Like we had a call with somebody that said, hey, try this new, now we're talking with Shutterstock about doing some really cool stuff that I won't release yet. But it's the ability to be able to pivot the way we are. That's a multi-million, maybe billion-dollar company that's doing some really cool, really new stuff that we'll be able to integrate into our platform. It's going to be fantastic. And they're ready just to jump on the boat with us. The fact that we can sit there and have these conversations with these kind of big players.
Yeah.
And some of the big accounts that we have that they look at it and they come to us for advice. It's like, really? That's, I feel like I have a lot of experience and that I know what I'm doing, but it's always, you kind of take a step back when it's, it's very humbling in a sense that somebody believes in what you say, that wants to understand, that they're at the top of their game as far as being an elite company. And they're like, all right, Mike, help me.
You're
Like,
me?
okay. All right.
Let me step up to the plate.
Let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
I like to take a swing. So it's, it's fun. It's what makes what I do, awesome.
So rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that amazes me about Mike, and when I came here, and I just found this out the other day, and I've been knowing Mike for 20-something years, that he didn't take a design class at LSU, and I thought he did. So for someone who never took a design class, never really got taught, and what he does now with his art amazes me, because it's something that it's like, man, wow, he just, over the years, you just did it like me. You got in, you did it, you started working, grinding, and he's gotten really, really good at it.
Oh, that's very humbling. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Right? But
it is. I mean, I had a really, in middle school, I had a really good art teacher.
Middle school.
Middle school. I'm telling you, that guy was amazing. But that was all about drawing. It really didn't have anything to do with like digital marketing, like any of that aspect of it. And I did take one semester of graphic design at LSU, but it was art history. It was drawing a bunch of naked people, which they always put the dudes in first, which I really wasn't a big fan, but
But just the art and the study, like, when we went, you had to work with the colors and the shapes and the lettering, the typography. You never had any.
No,
of
I
that.
have to.
And that's what it amazes me, because today in your designs, it's very clean. He knows what he wants. He uses a lot of white space, and that's what it just blows my mind, because with no design history, he's just really good.
That's one thing, too. Mike always knows what he wants. I feel like anything any of us bring to him, he'll be able to give you an answer right away. He might change his mind and be like, okay, well, you know what? Shannon, try it. If it doesn't work, oh, well, get over it. And that's one thing I've had to learn. Mike's like, okay, Miss Straight A student, sometimes you're going to have to mess up. But it really has changed my mindset, because I think one of the biggest things I appreciate the most about my job is my ability to create. When you think about social media, you don't typically think like it is really fun to create. And I'm so glad that I took this route instead of journalism, because with broadcasting, if you're a reporter, that doesn't leave you much room to be creative. It's all about the news, the hard facts.
Yeah.
But with social media, we really can be ourselves, and it is our brand, and that is so much fun.
And just think, if Mike comes up to you and says, hey, Shannon, you gave it a valiant effort, you made it. You made it. Really, I'm telling you. That means you're doing something really, really good.
That's funny. Yeah, a little bit of inside joke there. But, yeah, I do have in my mind what I like. And a lot of times it's just basically what you like. And I think I always did that. Like, even with other designers, you always kind of steal what you like. Mm-hmm. And if it was like, we had this guy, Eric Martin, that worked for us for one of these things, and super, super talented designer. And the way he was layering, the typography and stuff like that to make things pop, I was like, frick, how do you do that? So I would always break down his stuff, learn how he did it, even though he was technically under me. It's something you can always grasp from. And then when you look at other designs, I always would look at like cartooning and things like that. Garfield was a big thing for me when younger, and Calvin and Hobbes. So I would imitate how they would draw because that was something that I like. So you just try to mimic what they do to figure it out. So like when I would see ads too, I would like say, I like how that looks. What is that font? How do they space it out? And I try to imitate it, because you allows yourself to learn, instead of just trying to, let me put it together. Okay, that doesn't look right, but why doesn't it look right? I mean, a lot of times it's almost like, let me try to figure out how they did it, how the best of the best did it. And, and that's one of those things too, that, working here, I don't have to be the only resource for art. We've worked with some really talented people, like Julio's, to me, the most talented designer with UI and just everything that we have that is on our team. But we've also worked with some really big agencies that we just said, hey, throw out some creative. We want to see your ideas and concepts of it. And it allows us to kind of spark new ones. We do this now with even 99 Designs. We kind of go out there and push the envelope and see, talented artists. Like, we're trying to create a designer network because there are so many talented people that don't necessarily know how to leverage their artwork to make money. And, or they're sitting on an island and just want somebody to talk to. And we want to be those people as well. So it's kind of, we're hoping Marketing Box will change the world, not just for small business, but for designers, for all of those people that want to be an entrepreneur to some degree, and they can figure out how to do it through our, either directly through our platform or through some of our community networking that we have, to where they become part of this team.
Which brings me to my next question. So you have been a part of the marketing and advertising industry for a little over 30 years. You've seen a lot, and you've seen a lot of change with technology, the next big thing. And it's really funny because I was reading on Twitter today how people were saying a lot of things that were popular in the early 2000s are coming back into style, which trends, that's what happens with trends. Sometimes they come and go. Where do you see the marketing and advertising industry going within the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, to me, personalization has always been the key, like creating engagement. To me, marketing is essentially solving somebody's problem. So understanding what that problem is and being able to have a conversation about that problem is where you'll always win if you're a marketing person. So the more personal you can get by understanding your audience, understanding what their problems are, and that how your product can solve them, but being personal with it, is where it's going to go. And I think a lot of that is going to be social. I think social kind of trends into that. Email gets a little bit almost abusive to where it's kind of ignored. Direct mail, it does a good job of being in front of them, but direct mail isn't for everybody because it does tend to, you have to have a pretty good budget to even start. Even though you can get technically in somebody's hands for less than the cost of a click, it still is, if you don't have your right audience and you don't have your right messaging put together, if you don't know really what you're doing, it could be a fail. So, the strategy is always going to manipulate. It's fun to see where it is. I know Gary Vee always pushes that, right now social media is free, so you might as well push out as much as you can to be there, to be relevant. And they have those platforms now that are actually going on based off of interest and not based off of follows, which I think that is going to be the trend, so that it allows anybody to kind of be there. But again, trying to not necessarily take advantage, but create that communication. I'm always a big fan of the show Cheers. I don't know if that might be before your time, but Cheers is, if you don't know, look it up a couple of times, but it's a bar based out of Boston that had one guy always went in. Every time he walked into the bar, everybody in the bar said, "Norm," because everybody knew his name, right? By the time he would sit down at the very corner of the bar. By the time he got to his seat, his beer was already poured, and it slid right to him. Like, he would sit down, he'd put his hand down, that beer would slide right into his hand. So the bar, everybody knew his name already. It was personal. They knew what he wanted to drink, and they knew exactly where he was going to sit. If you can do that on a personal level with anybody, you'll win. Why would Norm go anywhere else and have to, now he can just have conversations. He can just talk to people and say his funny things and do what he does. He doesn't have to stop what he's doing and think about, oh, yes, I would like a beer on draft. What do you got? But I don't know. That's the kind of, to me, marketing, the more personal you can get, the more you can create that engagement and those conversations, that's where it's going to go. A lot of it's going to be in social media. I think a lot of it's going to be, I think direct mail has, if you haven't looked at direct mail lately, you need to look at the new ways that they do it, because I know we have a lot of different capabilities. A lot of people, when they look at our direct mail, they say, man, that's like direct mail on steroids. It really kind of is, because it ties the two together. It's not as traditional as you would think. It kind of allows to be accountability, logic, and all that behind it. So it's pretty smart. But there's a lot of different technology out there. Video is going to be huge. Just being able to, because of all of the AI that's coming out, being able to actually see that person and know you're talking to a human and not a robot. That's going to be a big deal. And I think that's why we always encourage, especially with our podcast, for businesses to get out there, to have that voice, because it allows people to connect and relate to them. Because I really do think small businesses are going to make a comeback. I think entrepreneurs are going to make a big comeback, because I think it's hard to compete with the Amazons in the world, but as we're going to this extreme culture division of the, the red and the blue.
It's
and
extremely disconnected.
It is. There's a lot of there's a lot of hate in the world, and I think people essentially it'll get to the point where it becomes, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I want to deal with compassion. I want to deal with people I know. I want to deal with people I trust, because there's a lot of mistrust in business everywhere you go. So I think as a small business, you continue to build on that. You'll win. I believe in where we're going to as far as the marketing platform, and I think it's going to, obviously we're going to adjust. And I guess the beauty of being a small company the way we are, we can't pivot with the trends to create something that's going to be magical that we're going to be launched pretty soon, with next quarter. So that's pretty exciting. But I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of positive opportunities out there for everybody. I think if you quit focusing on the, all the negative that's around you.
Yeah.
I think really, if you, obviously there's issues with the world today. You can't ignore that, but rather than harp on it and be part of the problem, try to be part of the solution.
Yeah. Be
nice to somebody. I think the world needs more nice. And just those random acts of kindness, they're contagious. So I encourage everybody to jump in and do something nice to somebody, or just smile and say hello to somebody, because I think it goes a very long way. You just don't know. And even when you get aggravated with somebody, try to take a deep breath and let it go.
Take a minute. Let me reassess how
you don't
I'm
know
going to
what
respond to this.
You don't know what they're going through. So there's a lot of things in this world that, I feel very humbled and blessed with everything that's happened to me, to be in this position that we're in right now, to have such an amazing team. It's like Thanksgiving every day, because I'm very thankful when I wake up in the morning that I get to do what I do and work with the people I work with, because I think we're about to do something incredibly amazing. And, I guess I need to thank my parents too. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Y'all did a good job.
Well, guys, let's wrap it up here. I do want to have Mike on again, because Mike and Sean have so much knowledge to spread with you guys, and we can all learn something from them. So if you have any other questions that we didn't get to in this interview today, DM us, reach out to us, and we'd love to have an answer for you. Thanks for tuning in.
Because Mike isn't a